All right, welcome everyone to our very first Club Silhouette class. My name is Kelly Waymond, and this is something we've been wanting to do for a while. This is our very first one, so if we have some technical difficulties or any other problems, just blame it that it's the first one and we'll get things straightened out. I am excited to be here. We're talking today about the Cameo 5, just kind of covering some basics about it, what you can do with it. We've got the chat open, so I will hopefully be able to read comments, but we also have Jackie who will feed me questions if I don't see them in the chat, so I can answer your questions. Go ahead and tell us where you're from, tell us if you are new to Silhouette, if you have the Cameo 5 or not, what machine you do have, any of that information that helps us know even how long you've been using Silhouette machines. That kind of helps we know how to gauge what to share with you. Well, let's go ahead and start with just talking about the Cameo 5. So this is basically our flagship machine. So this is the Cameo 5. It's my favorite machine. This is the 12-inch wide model. There's also a Cameo Plus that comes in a 15-inch and Cameo Pro Mark II that has the same internal workings of the Cameo 5. It's just 24 inches wide and looks different. This is an awesome machine. One of the things I love about it, we'll just kind of start going over key features until we get any questions. So what can it cut? It can cut paper, it can, all weights of paper, it can cut vinyl, heat transfer, sticker paper. Those are kind of the big ones that most people will use. It also will do additional things as far as cutting, because we've got various blades and tools that go in the machine. So it will, with the rotary blade, it will cut crepe paper and felt and fabric. We've got a punch tool that will help mark on vinyl and heat transfer what types of, or little marks so you know where to weed your vinyl and heat transfer. We've got a couple of different manual blades so you can just twist instead of doing the auto blade. The auto blade comes with the machine and it will adjust automatically based on the settings you have. We've also got a couple manual blades that you actually will dial it yourself to set your blade depth based on the depth of the material, the recommended settings. A couple of embossing tools. Some craft blades that will cut deeper, thicker things. One of the fun features I love about the Cameo 5 is that it has a power terminal, so it can use heat pens to do heat foil, and that also, the power in the machine also lets it connect to the electrostatic mat. So what actually comes in the machine is the Cameo 5, of course, and then you get the roll feeder. This is nice and stable. It connects to the base of your machine. I'll do that real quick here. So there is a front cover on your Cameo 5 that can be removed to expose the connection points for both your roll feeder and your electrostatic mat. So let's see, it's been a while since I actually opened it because I just leave mine off. All right, so it's got some tabs, and I probably just locked it. Nope. Okay, glass this time. All right, so it shows unlocked, and then you just kind of slide up and out. Okay, I'm making this look harder than it is, but it's not actually that hard. Let me do it the way I do at home. Okay, here's our first technical difficulty. I'm not being able to get this. On that side, there we go. Okay, honestly, it's not that hard. Believe me. So once you get it off, you may just want to leave it off. But it looks nice and covers that up if you're not using those ports very often. So there are some grooves there for the roll feeder. So it just kind of tucks in there, and once it's attached, it stays really stable. When you're using rolled material like vinyl or heat transfer, you slide this open and you can adjust. Let's see, got a roll of vinyl here. This is 9-inch wide vinyl, but you can also use 12-inch wide vinyl. So you can adjust it either to the 12-inch width or the 9-inch width. It's got little kind of grooves that it settles into. And then you can open this that has a little slot to feed your vinyl through it. And move it up to the rollers, and then you can feed it into your machine. One of the nice things about the Cameo 5 is the rollers that are really easy to adjust. So you're just going to lift just the right-hand one. You lift that tab up, and you've got all these different arrow points that you can set it to. So you've got a 12-inch mat, you've got a 12-inch wide vinyl, you've got 9-inch wide vinyl, you've got, or let's see, that one would be probably the mat for if you wanted to use a portrait mat in here, you could. And then 9-inch wide vinyl and 8.5-inch paper, and it goes all the way down to your media being, I think 4 1/4 is the smallest. If you're working with about 5-inch wide material, you can actually load it in. It's got those grooves that you can set exactly, but it also has a little rough area on the roller bar itself, the roller, the metal part. And as long as your roller wheels are, when you lock it in place, are on that grippy part of the metal, that's going to hold your material in place. You don't want to adjust it somewhere where the metal is smooth. That may not get enough grip to hold your material. So as long as you have your actual roller wheel on that grippy area of the metal, then it can hold on to those different widths of material. So you don't have to use just the standard size. All right, do we have a question?
Karen Page says that she's from St. Louis, Missouri, and she has a Cameo 2 that she can't live without. She's been working with it since 2014.
Oh yeah, she's got the Cameo 2 and can't live without it, using since 2014. So yeah, I had the Cameo 2 for a long time before they came out with the Cameo 3, and they have all been awesome machines. I will say I have used them all, and the Cameo 5 is my favorite. Even if for no other reason than it can use the heat pins and the electrostatic mat. I'm going to go ahead and pull that vinyl out of there. Another thing I will use the roll feeder for is actually just as a good smooth surface, or a kind of a extra flat surface. If your mat I don't know if you do this, but I do this where I use every little bit of stickiness from my mat. I try and get all the use out of it as I can. And as it loses its stickiness, when it curves a little bit, then your media is a little more likely to come off. And so I can extend the use a little bit by leaving that platform in place. Or if it's something that I actually need to keep flat, then I just leave that roll feeder on there completely collapsed. Something I will use the roll feeder for in this collapsed state is when I am cutting crepe paper, because that's something that has a hard time sticking to mats unless it's a really sticky mat. So when I'm doing crepe paper, I will leave that platform there. And also when I am doing something a little different where it's important for my object to stay in place. This is actually a really thin piece of acrylic. It absolutely goes in here with the Cameo 3 or Cameo 5 because it has a 3 millimeter height clearance, and this is actually an acrylic that's only about a millimeter thick, maybe a little thinner. And I have put it on my sticky mat and it stays in place, and I'll put the foil and the heat pen, and so I've used my Cameo 5 to do foiling on really thin acrylic, and so that platform helps keep it all nice and flat for me. All right. The Cameo 5, it comes with the regular sticky mat, just the standard tack mat. You can also purchase in the store some light tack mats and heavy tack mats. The embossing mat works in the Cameo 5. So this used to be, when we had the old original Curio, you could do embossing. And so the new Curio 2 also does embossing, but embossing also works in the Cameo 5. So you can use this 12-inch embossing mat that's got a clear cover and then just this thin soft foam that is sticky, that's a little bit tacky to hold your materials if you want to emboss. And so your embossing tools, there's a fine and a wide embossing tool. Those go in carriage too. I should mention that all of these tools, because there's a dual tool carriage, it holds two different tools. There's one marked with a 1 and one marked with a 2. So things like your auto blade and your manual blades that you twist that are just for cutting, those go in carriage 1 and they have a number 1 on them. And then carriage 2 tools, like these embossing tools, they have a number 2 in them to go with your number 2 carriage. All right, we have a question?
Yeah, kind of goes along with what you're talking about. Somebody wants to know what are all the blades for the Cameo 5?
So Cameo 5, it comes with the auto blade, and that is your all-purpose blade. It will go up to a depth of 10, which really will cut quite thick things. You have to be careful when you're doing those heavier, thicker materials that it's not super dense. But as soon as you get into dense materials, that's when you might start having problems. But you can cut up to a thin chipboard with the auto blade that comes with the machine. And then I've got all these other tools here that you can use in the Cameo 5. So I've got manual blades, which is just the standard manual blade that goes 0 through 10, same as the auto blade as far as blade depth. You've got what used to be called the deep cut blade. Now it's just called a 2 millimeter manual blade. That works in the Cameo 5. That goes up to a blade depth of 20, which coincides to 2 millimeters. So those are your cutting blades. You've also got cutting blades that work in the Cameo 5 that are craft blades. So this one's actually labeled with a number 1, and this one's labeled with a number 2. The number 1 goes up to blade depth of 2 millimeters, and then the blade depth on the 3 millimeter blade goes to, the craft blade goes to a blade depth of 30, which goes with 3 millimeters of thickness. And again, remember, it can't be super dense, even if it's within the thickness. Oh, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. So those go, oh, the Cameo 5, all of these tools have a little sensor, a little piece of metal that communicates with the machine to tell the machine what blade you have in there. So it's an auto tool detection is what we call that feature. And so when you insert that different blade in there and you are in your send panel, your machine is communicating with the software and it knows what tool you have in there. Now if it's a manual tool like this one, you have to actually adjust the depth. So this one goes 1 to 10, and you'll put in your material and it'll give you a suggested blade depth. It'll know that you have that tool in there and it'll give you a suggested blade depth, so you need to adjust the manual ones yourself. The auto blade, it will actually do its little tapping thing and adjust it for you. But it's important to always test cut. So we've got default settings that the software will tell you what it thinks you should cut on. But anytime you switch to a new material, or even if you have been using the same tool for a long time and then you put in a brand new tool, you might need to adjust the force just a tiny bit, which is very small increments, just to make sure that you're going from what was a dull tool to now a sharp tool, especially if you're working with something thin like vinyl. So those are all tools. Oh, also it will use sketch pens. It will use the Silhouette sketch pens, which just need this blue adapter. So the little black sketch pens that you can buy in sets from our shop just needs this tool adapter. And again, it's got the number 1 on there. It's got the little auto detection plate, so it will know that you've got a sketch pen inserted. But if you don't want to use the Silhouette sketch pens, we've got a pen holder that you can use these different colors. And I don't have the orange one. The orange one will use a thicker marker. But you've got your small, medium, and large. So you can use ballpoint pens, you can use gel pens. With the big wide orange collar, you can use thicker markers. So you've got a whole range of different pens of your own that you can use. I've got some really awesome glitter pens that I really like to use, and you just pick the color that works the best. And so those also work in the Cameo 5. And then of course the heat pens. This is 2 of the 3 heat pens we have. This is wide and fine, and we have a super fine now. But these are really cool. So these have not just the auto detection, but they also have the little ports that will connect in your carriage too. So it's an electronic terminal, and so when you slide that in there, it will touch those nodes and will get power to this tool. And so you let the tool heat up, you place foil on your material with masking tape, and then you can do fun things like adding foil. So I showed the foil on this piece of acrylic, and here's foil on an actual print and cut card. So I printed it and then added foil elements. So I had the color from my printer and then used the Cameo to add foil to it. And then this one, you can buy designs and choose whether you're going to cut or use those lines for foiling instead. So those are really fun. That is probably one of my very favorite things about the Cameo 5. That's also a feature that's available on the Portrait 4 and the Curio 2, but I love my main machine, my main 12-inch machine, being able to foil things. It's been super fun. I guess I just like shiny things. Okay, so that is, hopefully I covered the tools. Do we have any other questions at the moment?
We're a bit frozen right now, but I'm pretty sure everyone can still hear the audio.
Okay, so sounds like we are maybe frozen for viewing.
Yeah, audio's still working.
So one of the things that the Cameo 5 does is an automatic crosscut. So in the past with other machines, there have been different ways to cut like your rolled media after you have cut your material. So I think it was probably the Cameo 3 that introduced a cross cutter, where you had a little tool that you could sit in a slot in the back of your machine and slide it across, and it would it was almost like a wrapping paper cutter, if you've seen those. So you had a little tool that you would hold in your hand, stick it in a groove, and slide it across the back. With the Cameo 4, that improved a little bit by using a rotary cutter in the back that was built in, and that works really good. But the Cameo 5 actually has an automatic cross cutter in the software. So it just uses your auto blade. And after you finish cutting your roll of vinyl, you can tell it in the software before you send your cut, you can tell it that you want it to do an automatic cross cut. So it'll finish cutting your vinyl, and then it'll feed it forward a little bit to a preset or where you specify for cutting the roll. And the auto blade will then adjust to deeper settings and will cut. It will start in the center and move one direction and go back to the center and cut in the other direction, and then finish cutting that last little bit in the center. And so it cuts your rolled media for you. And that's a nice feature when you're using the rolled media. It just can save a little bit of time that you don't have to think about finding a paper trimmer or cutting it with scissors, or all of the different ways you have to cut rolled media after it's done. The machine can do it for you. Let's see. We talked about the 3mm height clearance, so you can put like craft foam in there, and thicker chipboard. You have to choose the right tool and the right settings. You do need to do a test cut, as I mentioned before. Whenever you're changing tools or cutting a new material, it's always a good idea to do a test cut, so you are checking to see if the suggested settings are working, or the settings that you have done. So you don't have to use the default setting. That's really a suggested starting point. On the Cameo 5, I'll mention that there are load lines. So it's easy to see where to load your material. So your left-hand roller, rolling wheel, needs to grip the material or grip the mat. And so you're always going to put the left edge of your mat or the left edge of your rolled media or your sticker paper, whatever you're cutting, needs to match up with this load line before you press the load button. We can talk about the electrostatic mat. Oh, one more thing. Something I love about the Cameo 5 is that it is quieter than previous models. So this is, if you're like me, where you've got your craft room right next to your kids' bedrooms, you can still craft in the night because they don't really hear the machine going on. So the quieter operation is really nice. As far as items being in stock, I don't have that information. So I can't tell you when certain items are going to be back in stock. Someone's asking about the larger pen holder collar. Let's talk about the ES mat. So this is the electrostatic mat, and it does not come with the machine unless you buy a bundle that has the electrostatic mat, which I highly, highly recommend. I love this tool. So this is an accessory you buy separately for your Cameo 5. It has got a little, again, a little electronic port that connects up with the port at the bottom. We'll see if I can do this backwards. Okay, so you're just pushing it in until these two little corner pieces pop up. And now that it's connected to a Cameo 5, it has power because the Cameo 5 is connected to power, and it's giving power to this ES mat. So the basic function of this is to you turn on the mat. Oh, always use the electrostatic protection sheet that comes with it, and you can buy refills of the ES mat protection sheets. That protects the actual mechanics, the parts you would not want to cut into. And so this, it's just scoring into your mat lightly until it uses it up, and then you can get a new mat. You don't ever want to cut all the way through this protective sheet either. I haven't had to change mine very often. I've been using it for, I don't know, a couple years, as long as they've been out, and I've probably only worn out 2 of the protective sheets. When it stops holding your material very well, and you can see it's visibly got score marks all across it, that's kind of when you know to replace just the protective sheet. With the ES mat plugged in, you can turn on the power, and that's going to generate an electrostatic charge, so it will hold your material in place. We have a question?
Yeah, somebody wants to know if you have cheat sheets, like, that explains everything that you've explained, or like what the blades are used for.
The question is, do I have cheat sheets? Nothing that's really condensed. We have been putting out YouTube videos and just a lot of videos. Yeah, I can't, probably on the Silhouette 101 blog, you might be able to find some good summarized information. So Silhouette 101 blog, silhouette101.com. So if you're searching Cameo 5 or setup videos, things like that, a lot of these have, and are we recording this?
This should be
That can be.
This will be posted up on YouTube later. If they want to look at it again, just use the same link.
Yeah, so use the same link. If you want to review this, you may want to take your own notes. I don't know. There's just a lot of information out there, but I can't think of one immediate spot to look that's covering all of this other than watching the video again. So the electrostatic charge is built up now, and so now when I put a piece of paper on there, it wants to cling to the bed. And so this is really awesome because it doesn't need a sticky adhesive to hold your material. Now I will usually turn off the electrostatic mat before I put my material on, because then it's easier to place my paper without it grabbing it. And then once I have placed my paper, I'll turn it on. And on the Cameo 5, it charges up pretty quickly. Smooth out any bubbles you might have. Little air bubbles, you don't want air bubbles. And now it is stuck again, so it doesn't want to move, and the mat will hold it in place while it is cutting. It's really fun. When you're ready to cut, you need to actually load it. It's similar to a mat, so you got to make sure that your rollers are at the furthest extension, and so that way it will feed in. Your rollers need to be going on these little channels to the side of the cutting mat itself. And then you're going to push it in, and I will give a little bit of pressure from the bottom. It's just kind of this little handle that you can push on, and then press your load button. And it loads it the same as it would a cutting mat, but now instead of anything sticky holding material in place, it's just this static charge. You do need to make sure, just like with a regular 12-inch cutting mat, that you have the space behind the machine so that can move in and out. So when you're using the ES mat, you do have to have a little bit more space that you're working with for your machine, because it's just that slightly larger footprint. But it is so fun. It's great for like something like this that has a bunch of little tiny cutouts. What I would do is I would cut this, cut the paper, and then when you are done cutting, you can lift your material off of the mat, the paper, and it will leave all those, or most of those little pieces behind. And if they're still a little bit connected, that's no big deal. They pop out really easily if you have the right settings. And then any little pieces you have on your mat, if you turn it off, it's just really easy to just swipe them off to the side, or I'll usually lift up my protective sheet and slide it to the side and wipe all those pieces off so they don't fall in the grooves. But it's really great as a paper crafter. I love it. I also will usually use it when I'm doing something like a foil project, so it doesn't take that pressure and have any chance of transferring adhesive because of the sticky mat. There's nothing to stick there, so that's really fun. Do we have any more questions?
No more questions right now, but somebody was saying that it looks significantly easier to align the page better, which is awesome for people who might be more visually impaired.
Yeah, so if you are talking about the ES mat or the Cameo 5, yeah, the ES mat, it's easy to align because once it's connected to your machine, there's only one place to load it. And so you're just lining up your material with the left edge and not into this little channel where the rollers go. So it is nice. Let's see. I didn't talk about the smooth opening lid, but I love this feature. You start it and it opens. That's fun, different than previous machines. It does cut with Bluetooth, so it connects by Bluetooth. I actually have, in my personal craft space, I've got my laptop on one table, and then on the other side, across the room behind me, that's where my machine is. And so I don't have to have this long USB cable stretching across my craft room. It's Bluetooth connected, and so I can have my laptop in one spot, and it's not connected physically to my machine, and I can run it that way, so that's really nice. The Cameo 5 also uses IPT technology, so Intelligent Path Technology. I don't know, we talk about that a lot, but it is a feature where the software, if you turn it on, the software will give you the best cutting path. It's a little bit slower, but it will choose what things to cut first, so you have the least likelihood of your material lifting while it cuts. So especially like with the electrostatic mat and something really delicate, that's something where I might choose the intelligent path technology, where it will do cuts and it won't connect all the cuts until later in the cut job, when there's not risk of your cuts making it lift off of the mat. So it's kind of something you kind of have to see it to understand it, but it takes a little bit longer, but it gives you more chance of success is kind of the point of that. Cameo 5 runs, of course, with our Silhouette Studio, which is our main desktop software. We're now up to Silhouette Studio version 5, which I'm using on a daily basis, but it still uses those older softwares if you haven't updated those older versions of Silhouette Studio. You can also use Silhouette Go, which is the web-based app that you can use on your mobile devices. So that will communicate directly with the Cameo 5. Silhouette Web, which is, you can use it on a web browser, on like a Google Chrome web browser, so any device that supports that. That is closer to the full Silhouette Studio software, so you just use it from a web browser and you don't have to have a mobile app, and you don't have to have your software directly installed. You can use Silhouette Web. And it also, the Cameo 5 will use the PicScan mat, if anybody's wondering. I like the PicScan mat, but we don't talk about that very often either. So that, let's see, I think those are a lot of the key points. So do we have any questions about what the Silhouette machine, the Cameo 5, will do? Or is there a certain project you want me to try out? I brought some paper, I have vinyl, I have a little bit of heat transfer. I can do a little show and tell while you guys are making any suggestions. If you want to see something cut using either the electrostatic mat or the roll feeder, let me know. I can probably do something that you ask. But in the meantime, I'll show off a few things that I've made with my Cameo 5. So of course there's crepe paper. I did a Michael's class on that one. That was a free Michael's class, and you can find this crocus design in the design store that links to that class. But yeah, you can cut crepe paper. That uses the rotary blade. Separate purchase, but well worth it if you like making three-dimensional art. Also with the rotary blade, you can cut felt. So this is a cute project that I made where I cut 2 layers of this little apple with felt and then just filled it with some stuffing. And you can either hot glue the edges like I did on this one, or if you're really fancy, you can use your embroidery stitches to stitch around it. So cuts crepe paper and felt. I didn't bring anything fabric, but you can cut fabric. So I've made a couple of small little, well, not small. I've made some stuffed animals with cutting fabric with my machine. Further into 3D, you've got just regular paper. So this is cardstock and just a lot of coloring to get this fine detail for these kind of realistic alstroemeria flowers. So that I did with my Cameo 5. You can go a little bit more simple, making a 3D paper craft where you just buy a design in the design store that's got these cute little layers. Most 3D designs, the designer will tell you how to assemble your project that you've cut out. Here's another 3D project I did around Valentine's Day where I created this cute little box. It's got some candies missing because I may have eaten them after I did the project. And another 3D project. This is actually a design I'm going to put in the design store soon. I just need to get instructions written for it, but I think it's pronounced Triskel paper orb. So just super fun 3D crafts. That's my thing. It's the 3D crafts, whether it's with paper or fabric or crepe paper. That's one of my favorites. And then, of course, there is just really cute little layered paper projects. So this is a little tissue box. This is a Lori Whitlock design, and she has a whole bunch of these cute tissue boxes that you can buy in the Silhouette Design Store. It says sending hedge hugs. And then, of course, there are cards. This one I made with a little bit of a 3D pop-out element. That's not how the card was designed, but I just cut extra pieces so I could do that. Oh, here is, this is actually, and I can't remember if this was a craft along. I think we have a video on this, probably on YouTube. This is actually using the embossing tools and the embossing mat, that white foam sticky mat, and the embossing tools, oh, and vellum. So I like the look of embossing vellum to give just that really cool texture on a card. It's a lot of visual interest, and if people want to touch the card, it's got that extra texture to it. So lots of fun things you can do when you have a Cameo 5. And I don't even have any vinyl projects. Oh, actually I do. We're going to show this off later today. But there's vinyl on a jar. That's like one of the simplest things you can do, is add vinyl to a smooth surface. So you can even decorate the front of your machine if you want with vinyl. You can cut out, you know, I'm the crafting queen or something like that, and put it on your project. I didn't bring any heat transfer projects either, but that's also another fun and easy type of project, is heat transfer, which you are using an iron or heat press or something with heat to, you know, you can add things to aprons, t-shirts. I've made so many t-shirts for my kids with whatever sayings or pictures they want, and they feel like they can choose what they want on their own clothes. So it's just an awesome machine for customizing projects and gifts for kids and friends and anything you want to make. All right, so let's see. Looks like we have a request. Can you show using the heat pens on the electrostatic mat with the foil? Okay, let's do that. I'm going to turn on my heat pen because it has to take 3 minutes to heat up. So heat pen, I'm going to use the fine tip, and I'm going to put it in carriage 2. Snap that into place. So the connection has been made, but I need to actually turn it on in the software. So just inserting it does not turn on the heat pen. I need to actually go in to look at carriage 2 and say turn on the heat pen, and then it takes 3 minutes to heat. So we'll use the electrostatic mat, and we'll just use this paper that I have. Let me design something real quick. I know I'm not connected my screen, but I'm going to just find a design real quick that will work. So I'm just setting up for this foil design. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about cutting it, but I can set separate cut lines and foil lines, but I think I'm just going to put it in just the corner of the page, just the foil itself. Your foil that comes with the heat pen set, or if you buy the Silhouette heat transfer foil, it's 3 inches wide and then it comes on a long roll. So you want to make sure that your design does not extend beyond the 3 inches. You can work around that doing multiple passes or being really creative with how you line it up, but you have the most success if you're keeping your design smaller than the 3-inch width. So I'm just going to cut some of that foil. Because it's so narrow, it's really easy to just cut with scissors. So let's see. I'll give myself some space here. All right, so let's see, masking tape. I know I have somewhere. Okay. So I've made this design, so it's going to kind of go down here on my paper. Is that showing on the overhead? We're good? Okay. So then this is the masking tape that comes with the heat foil. You can use any lightweight masking tape. I really like the Silhouette tape. You can also use washi tape. But what you're trying to do is have that foil as smooth as possible. And want to also make sure, make sure my design is not over here where the foil is. You don't want your foil pen to be running over where the tape is because it won't get the heat all the way through. All right, so I'm just trying to make my foil nice and smooth. You don't want a super strong tape because you don't want it to tear your paper. It just needs to be strong enough to hold the foil. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to line it up on my electrostatic mat. I've got the protective sheet just barely above this little line. And then you use the line to line up your top edge and then just the edge of the mat itself for the left edge. Okay, now that that's in place, I'm going to turn on the machine, which you can't see, but I'm turning on the machine. And then just give it a second to get that grip, make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Okay, that has preheated. The light should be on. I can't see from here, but I think it's on. You can't do any other functions while that's heating up for those 3 minutes, so you'll just get a pause light flashing. But when it's ready, then you can do your normal thing, load the mat. Okay. I'm going into my send panel, which you can't see, but making sure that the design I have is selected for tool 2. You can assign your cut lines whether it's going to be in with tool 1 or tool 2. And then I will use my force with the ES mat. I will usually use it at a force of 12 for the fine heat pen, and then just kind of a slow speed. I've got a speed of 4. So now I'm going to send it, and you guys can watch that do its thing and cross our fingers that it works. It works at home all the time, but I never know when I get here. So that's just putting enough pressure and contact with the hot tip of the heat pen against the foil, and that transfers that foil onto the paper. So I'm just going to check that. Pull up the tape. And I can unload that. So now it has taken that foil design and has transferred it where the heat pen touched it onto the paper. So absolutely, absolutely, if you have any interest in shiny things, I would get the heat pen set to go with your Cameo 5. And I really like using the foil with the ES matte also. It just makes it really slick. All right, do we have anything? Looks like that's probably it. We are going to go ahead and end now. This, I hope, it may be a little rough with technology. Sorry for the little glitch with the frozen video, but we're going to keep working this out and smooth it out to be able to do these monthly Club Silhouette classes. If you have suggestions, we would love to hear what you want classes on. And you can leave it in the comments here on this video, and we'll be able to see that and know what direction you guys want us to go. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we will do this again next month for Club Silhouette members. You'll get an email, and hopefully you can tune in every month. We think it'll be probably the second Thursday of every month, so you can kind of expect some consistency. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and let us know what you'd like for future classes. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.